Hey laughers, Laugh here, and welcome to a game called Amira's Blessing. If you like this video, then that means you need to smash that like button. You can kickbox it, punch it, whatever. And if you like more than one of these videos, then that means you need to subscribe as well. In fact, just subscribe anyways. And yeah, so Amira's Blessing is a game set in Hebrew times. This is when Hebrews were traveling in search of the Promised Land, per the story of Exodus. We play as Micah, who is a time traveler from the Hebrew time. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And yeah, so this game was made by KB, Jebby, Ingram, and Batya for their class project. And yeah, let's play Team Nausicaa's game. Let's get started. Okay. 20 years after crossing the Red Sea, Micah, his family, and his nomadic people live and travel together in search of the Promised Land. They live on humble means and at times struggle through the winter. However, where they are together, they are safe. Today's the day before Micah's 13th birthday. He's on the cusp of becoming the man of the house. As the only male, his mother and grandmother rely upon him to handle more physical tasks. Today, his responsibility is to look after the sheep. Oh. Today, his responsibility... Oh, we've already read that. The sun is low, and the shadows are long. Micah still has yet to complete all his chores before it is time to gather and eat with his family. Micah, however, is running free in the meadows, playing with his neighbor and his best friend, Talia. She is younger and smaller than him, but a fierce and playful friend. Are you sure you don't have time for just one more game? I don't know. My grandmother specifically asked me, "You're just scared that we would tie." Okay, just one more. Okay. So let Talia win or put your all into winning. Let's just go with this one. It's not fair. You're older than me. You should be embarrassed that we almost tied in the first place. It would be no embarrassment to lose to you. You're like a desert scorpion. You're like a desert scorpion, not dessert. Micah tilts his head back, drinking in the twilight sky. He is happy here. Even happier to become a man. Micah ponders the change that his 13th birthday will bring as he walks home with Talia. They part ways and a promise to meet tomorrow. They part with waves and a promise to meet tomorrow. As he nears his home, his stomach gurgles happily upon smelling the aroma of his grandma's bread. But as soon as Micah crosses the entry to his home, he realizes he has forgotten to complete his responsibility of the day. My grandson, I noticed that you have come home empty-handed. Either justify your actions or admit your faults. Well, that's a difficult one. But grandmother, I'm sorry. I forgot to return for the sheep after playing in the meadow. Tomorrow is the day you become a man, Micah. It is dark outside. The fire stoked by Batya accentuates the wrinkles that line her face. They reflect adversity and the hardships she has been through, all that she has done for Micah. Now the sheep will suffer because of your carelessness. Though you are almost a man, you are yet to become one. Go fetch Asher to help you round up the sheep. It is dangerous at night. Wow, it's a lot of reading. Okay. Micah walks shamefully towards Talia's home. He dreads admitting his mistake to Asher, who is by blood Talia's father, and a father figure to Micah himself. Asher exits the tent and is delighted to see Micah. Throughout Micah's confession, Asher never loses the fond twinkle in his eyes. Cool. Now, Micah, you are like a son to me. And as a father to a son, I say to you, life for a man is not easy. You must learn to make difficult choices and take responsibility for your actions. Micah looks steadily at the ground in remorseful silence. Dang. What? They crest the hill. Before them, a murder. One sheep lays in dirt soaked with gore, its eyes still open. The rest of the herd is nowhere to be found. How terrible! The rest of the herd must have run. It will be difficult to find them now. Micah feels a pang deep in his chest. He is acutely aware of the consequences of his choice from earlier today. How could he have forsaken his herd? What will become of them? Or of Micah himself? He blinks tears away. The sheep carcass becomes blurry. His vision is swallowed up by darkness. Yeah. One blink, two, and suddenly the sky is a brilliant amber. Gone is the result of his mistake. The dirt is unstained, and he is surrounded by his flock of sheep. Micah looks around in astonishment. Over the bleating of his herd, he hears the distant laughter of two carefree children. He looks beyond the hills to see his friend Talia, and himself? Okay, I can either gather the sheep and bring them in, or approach your past self, playing with Talia. Bewildered, Micah's legs start moving before he can think. He knows something is not right. Why can't he see himself playing in the meadow? Why is it dusk again? He has so many questions and so few answers. Micah sprints down the hill and into the meadow. The two figures run wild and Micah loses sight of himself. As he runs, his heart thrums in his head, his hands, his body. The sound of impish laughter becomes louder and louder, and he finds Talia in the tall grasses of the meadow, doubled over with laughter. He approaches her and taps her on the shoulder, and... Micah? But weren't you just there? Talia, what is going on? Where did your father go? Where's the dead sheep? Micah, what is this? What are you talking about? Micah feels his stomach and mind grow weak. It is as if he is walking on a ground that moves. He turns his head and sees a familiar silhouette. He swallows his fear, like a man,
and moves toward the figure. It is impossible to call it a person, because if it is, the person is himself. Still, he knows beyond any doubt that he is looking at his own back. Micah is within arm's length, but finds himself unable to touch the figure. He whispers something, breathless. And hearing his words, the figure turns. Their eyes meet and... Okay. The game just quit on me. I don't know if that... I don't know why. Whoops.
I chose the wrong choice. But grandmother, Talia was the one who kept me out in the meadow. I couldn't leave her there alone.
I didn't have time to round up the sheep, you see. I had just one request of you, Micah. It is dark outside. The fire stoked by Batya accentuates the wrinkles that line her face. They reflect adversity, the hardships she has been through, all that she has done for Micah. Now the sheep will suffer because of your carelessness. Though you are almost a man, you are yet to become one. Go fetch Asher to help you round up the sheep. It is dangerous at night. I think that's what we did well, I know we did that last time. One blink, two, and suddenly the sky's brilliant amber. Gone is the result of his mistake. The dirt is unstained, and he is
surrounded by his flock of sheep. Micah looks around in astonishment of the bleating of his herd.
Blah, 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 blah. And himself? Okay, so we already approached him before, but that only ended the story. So we'll gather the sheep and bring them in. Asher's words echo in Micah's head. He takes a shaky breath. With newly determined hands, he lifts his shepherd's rod and begins herding the sheep back home. As the sheep follow him down the hill, he looks over to the faraway figures of his foolish past self and Talia. They do not notice the flock or him leaving. They are too enraptured with their play. Micah guides the sheep into their enclosure. Once again, he smells the aroma of freshly baked bread. The dinner of the rewritten past remains unconsumed. Micah is nervous, but intrigued. Grandmother! The sheep are home, and I am hungry. Come and eat, my grandson. Tomorrow you are ready to become a man. Oh, I forgot to tell Talia when to meet. Oh, I forgot to tell Talia when to meet tomorrow. I have to go. Micah sprints away from his grandmother, fleeing to hide. He lies in waiting, his heart pounding. He knows someone is coming. Sure enough, he sees his past self on the way home. Micah is transfixed by his own face. He watches his past self squirm in guilt when he realizes his forgotten task. He wonders, do I really look like that? So childish and unable to hide my emotions. Grandson, back so soon? I've come home for my dinner. Haha, I suppose a boy thinks a man needs 2 meals. I've already eaten? Yes, and now you should go rest. Tomorrow is a big day. But I'm still hungry. Still a growing boy, not yet a man. Think of your mother. She has yet to come home and eat. Serves you I mean, me? Right. The world shivers and snaps abruptly again. Micah is inside the tents, the sheep safe at home. The two halves of his self have once again become whole. This phenomenon is unthinkable, unexplainable, but it feels like a gift from God. He doesn't understand it, but he knows it is powerful. He knows what could be. Micah thinks to himself, God has blessed me. The next day, Micah wakes up on his 13th birthday. He and Batya are talking about becoming a man, and in their conversation, Batya mentions Micah's grandfather, Jedediah. She describes how Asher was taken in by her and Jedediah. Micah is stunned. He did not know that Asher was adopted by his own grandparents. But then, his grandmother becomes solemn as she mentions the death of her husband. Micah feels it is something to do with Asher. Just then, Micah feels a pang in his chest and finds himself transported across time. Oh, okay. Okay. He sees his grandmother and grandfather walking past him. The footsteps of thousands of travelers echo strangely in this strip of land, surrounded by walls of water. They are in the middle of their passage across the Red Sea. The child finally sleeps, says Jedediah with a weary smile. Micah realizes this child is his mother, Amira. Because she is safe in your arms, Batya mentions, returning a loving smile. Micah watches silently as they travel, exhausted and dirty, but full of hope. Just then, the three family members are approached by another young child. He looks frightened, desperate, and emaciated. Anyways, as if he has been without food and care for weeks. What's happened to you, little one? Jedediah has a deep, kind voice that makes one feel protected. Micah's grandparents find out this child has been displaced. His family has perished. The other families pity him, but do not extend a hand. Trudging through unknown lands, they fear for their own survival and dwindling supplies. Micah's grandparents pick up the weak and exhausted boy, and Micah sees that the little boy appears to be a very young Asher. The boy falls asleep in seconds. He wakes up later, still hungry, but happy to have a family. For the first time in years, he feels hope. With newfound joy, he walks on his own and explores the impossible walls of water. Batya notices Asher getting too close to the sea creatures swimming alongside them. Child, you mustn't. But just at that moment, it is too late. Asher is swept into the Red Sea, and he can't swim. Jedediah, panicked, goes after the boy. He's about to make a move to save the small boy, whom he'd met just hours before. Micah can feel in his bones that he is witnessing history. This is one of the moments that lives within his family's blood, his family's lineage. But he is not just a witness now.
Stand by and watch the past unfold.
Or save Jedediah and let Asher perish. Ooh. Well, Asher is his friend's father, right? But then Jedediah... Let's go with this one. Micah searches his soul and finds a renewed energy there. He takes one step forward, then another. He's running for his grandfather's life. With all his might, he pulls Jedediah to the ocean floor, away from the water. Before his grandfather knows what has happened, the two watch in horror as Asher disappears into the murky water. Micah comes to the present and regrets his choice immediately. He sees his grandparents sitting together. He has done it. Indeed, his grandfather Jedediah is still alive, but something is deeply wrong. Jedediah has little memory or attachment to the present reality. He barely recognizes Micah. Batya looks like she has been dealing with the gradual erasure of Jedediah's mind for a long time. If Jedediah is not the same, what else could have changed? Micah rushes outside. The tent where Asher and Talia made their home is gone. The carvings that he and Talia have made at the base of the sheep's enclosure are gone as well. He runs in and asks Batya if he knows where Talia and her family have disappeared to. His grandmother has no recollection of these names. Unable to deal with the consequences, Micah runs to his mother in tears. Micah sobs into his mother's bosom. "Mother, he gasps. "I've done something terrible. I feel I can only be I feel I can only be a burden to you as your son. There's no way I can be a worthy man." For a moment, Amira is silent, stricken by the intensity of Micah's feelings. "My son," she begins gently, "though it pains me to say, life is full of regrets. I too have made choices I regret." Then he is taken from Amira's lap. Micah has once again landed in another time, surrounded by a bustling crowd. Children shriek in laughter, and people dance merrily. Micah takes in the sight around him and realizes the festival is for Shemini Atzeret, the ending holiday for the week of Sukkot, which celebrates the anniversary of his people leaving Egypt and crossing over the Red Sea. He feels utterly alone and miserable, and cannot bear to witness everyone's jubilation. The next day, Micah wakes up on his 13th birthday. He and Batya are talking about becoming a man. In their conversation, Batya mentions Micah's grandfather, Jedediah. She describes how Asher was taken in by her and Jedediah. Micah is stunned. He did not know that Asher was adopted by his own grandparents, but then his grandmother becomes solemn as he mentions the death of her husband. Micah feels it has something to do with Asher. Just then, Micah feels a pang in his chest and finds himself transported across time. Okay. Well, I'm actually gonna have to end it here. So, yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and smash that like button. You can kickbox it, punch it, whatever. And if you liked more than one of my videos, then that means you need to subscribe. Then that means you need to subscribe. In fact, subscribe anyways. And yeah, until next time, have a wonderful day.